Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing well. This was supposed to be an Instagram TV video, but for some reason it's not working. It says the connection keeps dropping out, which I don't really understand because my internet's working perfectly. You know, I can open web pages up. Instagram seems to be working okay, so I'm just going to record it as an Instagram TV post just to get the content out there. Sorry about that, everyone. I know it was supposed to be a more interactive post, this one. First time doing an Instagram live and it doesn't work, so... But I'll try it again in future. Hopefully next time it'll work and, you know, you can ask questions and be interactive. And it'll obviously get out there to more people as well. It becomes more visible, so... but yeah, hopefully you've been able to pick this video up. So the topic anyway for today was how to get results. Specific to... you know, weight loss, weight gain, sports performance. But you can also apply these principles to pretty much anything. But, you know, in my area, in weightlifting and strength training, it's all about getting results in terms of either your body composition, sport and performance, or just generally feeling healthier and happier as well. That's becoming more and more important just for the general population, people really, you know, non-athletes. So this is a post for people that are new, you know, perhaps new to training or maybe haven't trained for a while. Obviously, it's been a while since the gyms have been open, but that could be changing very soon potentially. So fingers crossed, you know, we could have some access to gyms very soon. So I know quite a few people are going to be coming back into the gym, trying to achieve goals. Just looking at a lot of the posts that I've just been seeing generally on social media, I know a lot of people have been either putting a lot of weight on or, you know, generally feeling lethargic, being based from home. You know, not as much physical activity as well if you're based from home. I know we've been locked down to the point where we weren't really allowed to go out much. You know, at one point I think we were allowed to go out once, which is better than some other countries. I know, for example, in Spain they were locked in completely, weren't allowed to go outside for anything other than, you know, absolute essentials. So we've been quite lucky in that respect. But things trying, you know, gradually getting there now in terms of returning to normality. So it's a good opportunity and a good time just to go through how to get results. So this isn't kind of like a comprehensive delve into each area, but I'm just going to cover the main kind of points to consider if you're looking at getting back into the gym, getting back into training, and just kind of maybe feeling, if you've been feeling a bit fed up and feeling lethargic and feeling a bit unhappy over this period, you know, with gyms potentially opening up, it could be a good opportunity to have a look at a few of these things. So, you know, even if I'm only able to reach, you know, one or two people and, you know, make a difference, it's massive. And I think Instagram and social media now is it's a big opportunity just to get the word out there and just to spread this, you know, the knowledge and the positivity and the inspiration for a lot of people. So I appreciate you tuning in. I know it's not an Instagram live, but I hope again you're able to receive this content and get value from it. So number one, if you're looking at achieving goals, the first thing that I would do is it's become aware of yourself. Self-awareness is absolutely key. What is your actual goal, or what goals do you have, and why? You know, have a delve into the emotional connection that you've maybe got. I know I'm going to take the example of weight loss because purely that is probably the most common goal that people come to the gym for. You know, over the past 10 years that I've been working at the gym, that is probably out of 10 people, 8 or 9 people out of 10 that you see, you know, 80-90% of people, when you sit down with them, their goals are mainly to lose weight and tone up. But it does run a lot deeper than that. You know, what are the reasons why you want to lose weight? You know, actually have a think, you know, why is it important to me? What are kind of the feelings that I've got now? What's prompted me to join the gym or to take action? It gets to the point, I think, where it's easy to procrastinate and not take action. And, you know, just it's easy, isn't it? You can just sit on the sofa all day, not really do much. And it's nice, it's relaxing, and you can kind of get by with that, and it's good to a point, but you will get to the point where it'll be, you know, the negatives will outweigh the positives of doing that, and you'll start to feel lethargic. You know, it's easy to put on body weight. You don't feel as healthy, certainly don't feel as healthy. And it gets to that point where the pain actually overrides the actual benefit of sitting down and doing nothing. So that's the point. Actually reflect on, you know, what was the kind of pinch point, what was the pain point that prompted you to take action? And for a lot of people it's that feeling lethargic, feeling unattractive, looking at all of these different elements, struggling just with day-to-day tasks. If you put on a certain amount of weight, you might be finding it hard just to even get up out of the chair, or you start to feel that this is actually a lot harder than it should be. You should be springing out of the chair, now it's a lot harder. All these little things add up, and it's important just to kind of write down and become aware, have that self-awareness and build that self-awareness as to why you want to achieve your goals, rather than someone saying, you need to lose weight or whatever. It's got to come from within, it's got to be important to you. And on the flip side of that, to look at the positives, what are the actual benefits of achieving the goal that you want to set out to achieve? So again, taking that weight loss, obviously feeling more attractive, fitting into clothes that you like to, you wanted to wear that you don't fit into anymore. That could be that pain point, not able to fit into the clothes you want to. Warmer weather coming now. I know there's not as much opportunity in terms of going away on holidays and things like that at the minute, but it could change. But again, people want to be sat outside now, and they want to be able to wear those clothes maybe that they fit into last year, but now they're struggling to. So what are the pain points, but then also how will you feel once you've achieved your goals? Once you've lost that weight, once you're, feeling more attractive, you can fit into your clothes. How will that feel just emotionally? What emotions will you feel? It's important to have that kind of emotional connection, and that's something that will spring you forwards in terms of making action. That's something we'll come up to next. But yeah, it needs to be exciting. It needs to be inspiring. When you think about your goal, weight loss again, take that example. Picture yourself, once you've lost that weight, whether it's 1 stone, 2 stone, 6 kilo, 12 kilos, whatever it may be, picture yourself. How will you feel when you're wearing those clothes? When we're able to go on holiday, for example, meeting up with friends and family when we're able to. How will you feel? How will your confidence levels be in that situation? How will your energy levels be as well? It's not just about how you look, it's about how you feel, both physically and mentally. It has to be exciting and inspiring. Secondly, write down what your goals are, but also focus on the process rather than just focusing on kind of, I'm not where I need to be, and focusing on, I don't feel very good because I'm not where I want to be. Take another example, building muscle mass. I know some people, they struggle to put on weight. It's the opposite. They struggle to put on weight, they don't feel confident, and they're not where they want to be. But kind of rather than focusing on, I'm not where I want to be, I'm not at the physique level that I want to be at, I don't feel confident. Focus on the actual processes that you need to do and the tasks that you need to do to get you there rather than the actual end point. So it is good to have that kind of ultimate goal, of a certain physique. Again, take muscle mass, to be able to fit into a t-shirt that you want to fit into, to be confident, to look good in the t-shirt, to look good, when we're able to go on holiday or to the beach, to be confident to be able to take your top off, for example. That could be an inspirational thing for you to want to achieve. But rather than focusing on not being there, focus on the actual process of trying to get there. So chipping away at all the individual little tasks that are going to move you forwards towards where you want to be. That's the key, not to get disheartened by not being where you want to be, but focusing on the actual process. And it's a struggle. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be times where you don't feel like going into the gym, or you don't feel like going for a walk, you don't feel like preparing meals, for example. It's going to be tough, and it's to be disciplined and persevere through these tough times. So I wrote a few notes here as well just to kind of guide me through this. But yeah, focus on the process. Work backwards. Look at what you need to do to get there, and focus on those actual habits that you need to develop to get there rather than not being there. But even small changes can make a massive impact. I know studies have been done to show that when people have been given a goal, whether it's again coming back to weight loss, if they've been given, a program, a plan of action to lose weight, even if they only stick to that plan, 10% of the time, their consistency level isn't very good, but 10% is consistent, then those people have been shown to actually lose weight. I think it's about 6 kilos in a year. So again, it's over a year, losing about a stone of weight, 6 kilos. It's maybe not enough for where you want to be, but at the same time, just being consistent to 10%, actually helps you to move forwards. And you're moving forwards, you know, any progress is progress, you know, no matter how small it is. But that just shows you little small changes. If you can maintain them and maintain, you know, only a few habits, you can actually achieve good results just from having, you know, making these small little changes. It doesn't have to be a drastic overhaul of your lifestyle. I think a lot of people make that mistake. They try and go from one extreme to the other, you know, from, you know, sitting at a desk all day, sitting on the sofa all night, eating, you know, whatever, highly processed, high calorie, highly palatable foods, to, you know, trying to think, I want to be, you know, absolutely shredded, and I want to be lean, and I want to be confident, and I'm going to eat completely strictly, I'm going to stick to everything 100%. I think that's not sustainable for the vast majority of people. Some people can do it. You know, there's people with a certain mindset that can kind of flip a switch and go from one extreme to the other. But I do think for the vast majority of people, it's trying to make these incremental changes over time and just be consistent with, you know, one or two little changes at a time. Get good at those, be consistent, and then move forwards from there and look at something else you can improve upon. But yeah, what are the daily habits that need to be in place? Examples could be just as simple as going for a daily walk if you don't already. I know I've posted about this recently on emails and social media posts. Just something as simple as if you're not currently going for a walk every day, just going around the block once. It might only be 10 minutes, you know, for a slow walk. That's a start, and that will burn calories. Not only will it burn calories, you're going to be outside in the fresh air, a chance to kind of take a step away from the screens, just to clear your head as well. You're getting that vitamin D on board. So there's lots and lots of benefits you can do just from even just 10 minutes just starting. And you can build it up from there. You might get into the habit of doing 10 minutes a day every day for a week, and then you might think, right, actually I'm in the habit of doing that, let's do 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden you're up to 30 minutes. And just something as simple as doing 30 minutes walking every single day. You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, too brisk to start with. It can just be a nice gentle walk every day, 30 minutes. You know, you can burn like, I think it's about 150, 200 calories a day, and that adds up. You know, if you're doing that every single day, that can add up, and that can be the difference. And that can put you into, you know, a slight calorie deficit if weight loss is your goal. That's something we'll come up to next, later down the line in this, calorie deficit and nutrition. I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but I said I would keep it not too scientific. I'm not going to go into the scientific side of it too much. I'm just going to give you the practical knowledge that's going to help you move forwards. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I'll go through the key things that people need to do to get results. Things like having a whiteboard. So for example, I've got the whiteboard in the background there. Having a whiteboard with your daily tasks on. Again, you can start very small. One or two little tasks. Go for a 10-minute walk every day. Have a protein shake, for example. You know, get your protein up. That could be another one. Doing 5 minutes of mobility work at home. You can check those things off, and it's, you know, rather than overwhelming yourself and being like, I've got a massive amount of weight I need to lose. I've got to do a ton of work. You know, where do I start? I'm overwhelmed. Pick 2 or 3 little things that you can achieve very quickly. Have it on a whiteboard and check it off every single day. Have, you know, your days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every single day. At least doing one of these things to start with, whether it's the walk, check it off. Have a protein shake, or, you know, something that's high in protein, that's going to help you. Check it off. Every single day, you're going to be building these habits every single day, just starting with something small and incremental. And you can build upon it. It's a snowball effect, you know, rather than going from one extreme to the other. And it's important to start now and take action now, rather than trying to wait for the perfect situation and wait until you feel motivated. This is something I posted about recently as well. In terms of motivation, you know, I don't feel motivated to start today, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Actually, motivation will come to you after you take action, rather than waiting for it to come to you. So this is the key. Take action now, even if it's something very small like walking around the block. Or, you know, if you're at another level already and you're trying to push forwards from there, if you're already walking for 30 minutes, an hour a day, for example, getting lots of footsteps in, but you're still struggling to get to where you want to be, you could add something else in there. You could be, you know, I'm going to start training now and doing more intense training 3 times a week, for example, and stick to it. Every week, make sure you check it off, be disciplined with it and check it off, and take action now rather than waiting for motivation to come to you. Again, that's another rabbit hole I could kind of go down and spend hours, on covering, but we're going to kind of go through the other key points for what we need to know for today. But yeah, using a whiteboard, notepad, tablet, use your phone, your diary on your phone now. We've got the technology. The calendar on the iPhone, you can set alerts, you can schedule your day, little tasks. No matter how small they are, you can schedule an alert. Whatever you're doing at that moment in time, drop it and just do the 5 minutes walk around the block, for example. And you can get it done. And then you're just building those habits. The next one, create a positive environment. So this is really, really important and often overlooked. It's your home environment. I know at this moment in time, we've kind of been forced to stay at home more. So the home environment is really important. It's who you spend your time with, who you're living with. Are they a positive influence? Are they not? If they're not, if the people you're living with, whether it's a partner, parents, whoever it may be, friends, you might not have chosen the people that you're living with. There might be a negative influence. Does it mean that you have to just cut them off altogether? Not initially, no, but you could probably spend a bit more time on your own and actually create your own positive mentality and positive environment on your own if you do feel like they are a negative influence. But as things start to go back to normal, we can start to go out and about now, and again, potentially we might be able to go back to gyms in the next couple of weeks, if not the next couple of months, but we'll see. An example for me is for weightlifting training, I went down to Atlas, which is one of the top weightlifting facilities in the country, and that certainly had an impact on my results, just from the standpoint of just being around serious coaches, serious lifters, internationals, spending time with these people and seeing how they train and seeing how many hours they put into the training and the recovery and how seriously they take it. That rubbed off on me certainly, and it pushed me to a level higher than I would have been if I'd have just stayed and trained in Hull and not been exposed to that environment. So it's important who you spend your time with. Try and seek out people that are, I think at this moment in time, again, we're restricted still a little bit as to who we can kind of go out and see at this moment, but spend more time actually listening to people that are going to be positive influence on your life, people that are going to be offering value to you, and you can take that from them, and it's going to help you to achieve your results, because you can get people that have the opposite effect. They'll drain your energy, you'll feel it. They're going to drain your energy, they're very negative, and that's going to hold you back from achieving results. So that is a really important consideration, the environment you're in and the people you surround yourself with. But yeah, their behaviours will rub off on you, whether it's positive or negative. So yeah, be mindful of it, and just try and do the best you can in this situation. But yeah, again, focus on what you need to do rather than what people tell you that they want you to do. So people might tell you that you're not capable of achieving what you want to achieve, or why are you doing that? Why do you want to lose weight? That can have an influence on you, but again, it comes back to that first point I made, the self-awareness. If you can become self-aware of what you actually want for yourself, that can override any negative influence from other people. Next point, keep it simple. We're going to try and get through these. I'm aware of the length of the video. We're on coming up to 19 minutes. Going to try and keep it under 30 minutes, 45 minutes. We'll see what we can get through. Just trying to keep it relatively concise, to cover such a broad topic. But keep it simple. Focus on one goal at a time. Like I said, with those daily tasks, rather than trying to overwhelm you. This is a common error that I see, and a common issue that I see with a lot of people. When they first come into the gym, they first come to me, they're trying to, they're overwhelmed with everything they need to do: training, nutrition, hydration, sleep, stress, recovery. All of these little elements are trying to get right. But if you can focus on one or two things, really simple things that you can control and you can control, get those ingrained as habits first, and then you can move on to something else. But that's one of my jobs as a coach, to guide people through, to give people a couple of little tasks that they can achieve, move on to something else, progressively overload, gradually increase the difficulty level of these tasks over time. But some people can kind of get into the deep end and start tackling these big tasks and get them done. Everyone's different. That's where coaching can come into it. Everyone's different, so it's to the individual. If you really struggle and you feel like you become overwhelmed, just keep it very simple. Become good at one or two things. The basics of nutrition and exercise work really well. Again, it doesn't have to be anything fancy or new. I think this is a common thing you see in the industry. There's kind of something new coming out, whether it's a nutritional strategy, whether it's a diet or an exercise plan or a different type of training method or something like that. But when you actually look at it for results, consistency is the overriding factor that will get you to where you want to be. You know, you could have a training program that it might not be the best suited program to you, but if you can stick to it and you can be consistent with it and deliver on it and do it 3 times a week consistently and just gradually try and get a little bit better every week, and you know you can stick to it, that's going to be better than a program that was specifically tailored for your needs, you know. And you know, the best coach in the world might have written the best program in the world for you at that moment in time, but if you're not going to stick to it, if you're only going to kind of half-heartedly attempt the program, or you're going to skip sessions and you don't feel like you're going to stick to it, you're probably not going to get as good a result as you would on that program that maybe isn't as good, isn't as well thought out, but it's one that you can stick to. So again, that is the key thing, you know, rather than the actual intricacies of a training program. First of all, if you're not consistent and you're not in the habit of going to the gym and training, can you just look at a simple program? You know, I keep it as simple as possible, even for myself. I put an Instagram post up last night of a training program that I've been doing every Friday. Just 4 exercises for the lower body. So squats, good mornings. I want to do hip thrusts, split squats, 4 exercises. And they've been the same every week for quite a few weeks now, but just gradual progressive overload. So that means just gradually adding a little bit of weight, or, you know, adding a couple more reps. Keep it simple. It doesn't have to be vastly complicated for the vast majority of you. So I know if you're looking at top level weightlifters, you can look at the intricacies of training programming, and it can be mapped out for up to, you know, 4 years between Olympic Games. And you can kind of have everything mapped out to the very specific, you know, intensities, percentages, sets and reps and rest periods and all. For most people, you don't need to worry about that. Can you be consistent and just do some exercise 3 times a week? Then that's going to get you more results than having a really detailed program. Obviously, the detailed programming is something we can layer on top of clients and people that have been consistent, and they're in that consistency of going and training, you know, with good intent and doing it 3 times a week, for example, 4 times a week. If they're in the habit of doing it, then we can start to look at these little intricacies and things. But for the vast majority of people just starting in the gym, maybe unfamiliar with lifting weights, can you get in and just be consistent on a basic program with a few exercises, you know, for the whole body? That's one of the things I would say for the majority of people just starting out. Train the whole body. So that means, you know, training all the major muscle groups: legs, upper body, chest, shoulders, back, hamstrings, glutes, all the big muscle groups. Said I wasn't going to be too technical with the scientific detail, but those are just all the big muscles in the body, essentially. You're just trying to hit all of them, so you'll get the maximum kind of bang for your buck by training these big muscle groups. Just keeping it as simple as possible. Again, I post up examples of training programs that I do on my Instagram constantly. On my stories, I put them up of what I do. It doesn't have to be as technical as that. You can just start with body weight. You know, body weight squats, split squats, some resistance band exercises, rows, body weight rows, just exercises like this. It doesn't have to be too complex. You could probably get by on, I would say that the majority of people that are relatively new to training, you could pick 4, 5, 6 exercises and just do them 3 times a week. The same program, 3 times a week, 3 times a week, 3 times a week. And just gradually over time, you know, over weeks, if that person is consistent, they're going to achieve some really good results. Provided the nutrition is in place as well, and that's something, again, I say we'll come on to that. We're not going to go into it in too much detail because that's probably for another post, but we're going to skim across the majority of the areas as an overview of how to get results. Yeah, so keep it simple: daily walking, basics of good nutrition and exercise. I think most people, even, you know, you don't necessarily need a coach to know what you need to do for the most part. You know, most people know they need to move more generally, you know, spend more time active, just on your feet, moving around, walking, less time sitting down. Basics of good nutrition, so just eating more whole foods, it's things that people mainly know but they don't do. Eating plenty of fruit and veg, high fibre foods, whole grains, beans, high protein foods as well, so you're looking at animal protein sources, chicken for example, fish. You're looking at all these different as many different sources as you can. And yeah, just good hydration, that's another thing as well. It's quite common that I see people generally don't have enough water, and that's something that can really help just in terms of energy levels, performance if you're training as well. If you're dehydrated, it's going to affect your performance. So these are kind of like the basic things, and I think most people kind of know, at least the basics of nutrition and training. If you don't, again, feel free to drop a message through to me if there's any questions you've got, any specific questions. But yeah, focus on one goal at a time, become good at a few things, the basics of good nutrition and training. For example, daily physical activities, or just going for a walk every day, if that's something you don't do already. The next point is growth mindset. So this is something that Carol Dweck wrote about, and this is a really interesting one, and this again comes back to mindset. So you can Google this and look at the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So, and it's something personally that I've been working on in different elements of my life. A growth mindset, you're looking at accepting challenges for what they are, and accepting that it's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be a learning process, and you accept those challenges as a learning process rather than trying to avoid challenges. You actually kind of, like for me, for example, creating videos like this, it's not in my comfort zone to do videos. But the more and more that I do, I become more and more confident and comfortable at doing them. So for example, for an individual, it could be, look at what you find really difficult and that you avoid doing and that you're maybe not good at, and actually challenge yourself to do it. So for example, it might be confidence of even just going into a gym. When obviously gyms go back, challenge yourself to do it if you've never been in a gym before. Seek out a coach for some advice. It could even be online for some questions about how to do certain exercises, just to build that confidence. I think there's that fear, for a lot of people going into a gym the first time, of looking silly and not really knowing what they're doing. But that's the purpose of seeking help. And you can do a lot of research online now. There's online coaching, and then hopefully we're able to go back to the gym and we can coach face to face soon as well. So, but yeah, that growth mindset, embracing discomfort, that's another thing. I think a lot of, especially now, it's easy to be in a comfortable situation. We're sat down all day, working from home, sat on the sofa on an evening. It's very comfortable and it's easy and it's nice to be in that position, but only to a certain point. And it is nice to a point to be able to do that, but at the same time we need some level of challenge, and if you're not challenged, then it's difficult to grow and get results. Ultimately it comes back to getting results. But yeah, in terms of training, don't expect every session or every day to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. I've had days of training, when I was training for weightlifting competition in the past, where I just wanted to give up. I just got frustrated with it, didn't feel like I was moving forwards, and I've lost count of how many sessions I've had like that where I've just not felt like I've been moving forwards. But looking back on those sessions, actually they were really important sessions. It showed that I was keen, I was willing to get into the mix and just check the sessions off, and you're still going to get some benefit out of these sessions. And the days that you have, the bad days, you're going to get good benefits overall from those. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. It's going to build that mental toughness, and it's going to help you to grow and move you towards where you want to be. So rather than kind of seeing challenge and struggle as something negative, accept it as something positive that's going to help you to grow. But yeah, learning from criticism, being inspired by others as well, is good. Inspiration from others, rather than kind of looking at other people that are where you want to be, and kind of being jealous about it and thinking, I wish I was in that position. Actually be inspired by them rather than feeling like that. Be inspired. If they're doing something positive and they're in a position where you want to be, use it as inspiration. Look at what they're doing, what their habits are, and then use it for that inspiration rather than feeling negative about it. But yeah, small changes, it comes back to the small changes over time. If you're consistent with small changes, you're going to move forwards and get results. But yeah, we need to experience tough times in life as well to make everything all worthwhile. You know, if it's just plain sailing, sat on the sofa all day, not really moving forwards, then that for me is probably one of the most frustrating things of all, because we're not able to move forwards towards, you know, getting towards achieving results and being where you want to be. Going through the struggles and those tough days, that's what makes everything worthwhile in the end. It's a lot sweeter, you know, when you achieve a result, when you look back and you've struggled and you've overcome adversity to get to where you want to be. You know, it's actually a lot more satisfying to look back on that and be like, yeah, actually, I pushed through those tough times. I almost gave up at a lot of different points, but I pushed through, you know, gritted my teeth. It comes back to grit, you know, persevering and pushing through when you really don't feel like it, and just doing it and checking the tasks off. Whether you feel like it or not, that's a big kind of differentiator when you look at those that are successful and achieve results and those that don't. The ones that are successful, they're not kind of plain sailing, you know, they're not progressing in a linear fashion constantly. That, you know, they're having their ups and downs, but, you know, on the bigger picture, they're moving forwards and they're able to sustain it in the long term. But yeah, you can learn from, coming back to that, actually, change is hard as well. I appreciate it's hard. For me, I was very passionate about learning to lift weights and becoming a better weightlifter and performing better. I was very passionate about it. So for me, I felt it was very easy to get into the gym and do it, relatively easy compared to a lot of people. Whereas I know, and I appreciate a lot of people aren't passionate about lifting weights, but they want to get the result. So it's doing those tasks that you need to do, even if you like them or not, just doing them. And yeah, change is hard as well. It's developing those habits. Again, if you're coming from if you've just been eating processed foods, you know, not eating any fruit and veg, not doing any exercise, if you're coming from that, you know, background, that's going to be very hard to just kind of flip everything on its head and turn your life around all of a sudden. The process of actually changing and developing new habits is going to be very difficult, and I appreciate that. But that's what my job is, to help people just to develop these positive habits gradually over time. But I know as well, I understand that the world is very much set up for comfort these days as well now. It is set up for comfort, and, you know, everything now, when you look around you in the house, it's designed and made to make your life easier, essentially. And it's very easy to become kind of lazy and not do much physical activity. It makes perfect sense, you know, for those that are lying on the sofa and not doing anything. I don't judge them, because actually when you look at the world and the way it's designed now, it's absolutely understandable as to why people would choose to live that way. It makes perfect sense. Another example is the food that we've got access to now. It's very quick and easy now, just to grab whatever food, highly palatable foods as well, foods that are really easy to eat, that are, you know, maybe high calorie processed foods that maybe aren't going to positively impact your health. These are really easy to get hold of, you know, and it's very easy, especially working from home. I've seen quite a few people say, you know, I've just been overeating, and I've just been in the cupboards constantly and been putting on weight. And it's that convenience, you know, if you've got those types of foods, easy to consume, foods that aren't going to keep you full. You know, you're going to keep going back and snacking, you know, for example, chocolate, sweets, crisps, things like that. They're not going to necessarily fill you up, but they're high calorie, highly processed. You're going to keep going back. You're not going to feel satiated. You're not going to feel full. Whereas if you change that across, your mindset across, you know, eating more fruit, veg, high protein sources, you're going to feel a lot fuller for longer. You're going to be less likely to snack on those types of foods, and you're not going to put on as much weight potentially. So little things like that. I know, and I understand the world today is very much set up for comfort and for convenience of eating high calorie foods. So it makes perfect sense. It's logical. There's no judgment on that part. You know, if you are overweight and you're unhappy with it, you know, from my point of view, I'm not going to judge you negatively, because I understand the world is set up like that, and it makes perfect sense. It's harder to be fit and healthy now, and to eat a nutritious diet and to exercise. you know, you've got to actually put a lot more effort in now to do that, whereas in the past, you know, before we had access to, you know, these kind of conveniences, and the world wasn't set up to be so labour kind of saving. It was, you know, just I know, like for my mum, for example, growing up in the, you know, the 40s, 50s, everything back then was just done manually. You know, you had to wash. She had to wash. The parents had to wash her clothes manually. She had to do the same. Everything was just done manually. You know, I think obesity levels were relatively low back then, you know, in comparison to now. But they were a lot more active. Foods weren't as preserved back then. So people were eating whole foods. They were eating things like the full part of, you know, animal organs as well, things like that. You know, they'd eat more, you know, nothing would go to waste back then, essentially. But there wasn't as much in the way of processed foods back then. So things have changed, you know, even in like my mum's life, you know, in her lifetime, things have changed. You know, now you look at the access to things like sweets and chocolate and alcohol. It's very, very quick and easy to get hold of it. So it is hard, and I appreciate that for a lot of people. It's, you know, if you're trying to change and make change, it's very hard to make changes, but it's possible. And I think an incremental approach, just like we've said, that is a good way to go about it. Training, again, this is something that I could go down that rabbit hole and discuss for hours and hours, but I'm going to just kind of skim over what you need to be looking at for training. I've kind of covered a few bits already. So I've just got training, lifestyle, and a couple more bits to cover. The mindset needs to be in place first. So the things that we've discussed, this is the key first, but you know, before starting training, you need to be in that right mentality, growth mindset. You need to be self-aware. You need to be gradually trying to make changes, you know, rather than waiting to be motivated. But yeah, this is where it's research and practice comes into play for me. You know, when I look at training knowledge, you know, I've studied sports science at university, did 3 years at Loughborough just studying sports science, read lots of books on training, done lots of different courses and things like that, professional development over the years. But when you're looking at training and what you need to do for training, because it is such a broad area, you know, where do you start in the gym? You walk into a gym like David Lloyd, it's brilliant because it's huge and there's lots of equipment in there, and there's lots of variety, and you know, but it's like, it can be overwhelming for a beginner. Where do you start? What do you do? What program do you do? So there are a lot of different factors. It's quite a complex area, but again, it comes back to my point on keeping it as simple as possible. And there's so many books you can read. There's so many resources out there now. You look online on YouTube and there's just so much, you know, free content out there now. Actually, you can teach yourself how to lift weights online. But when I first started, there wasn't really that much out there. I had to read books. And then only at a later date did I start looking at coaches. And for me, I value coaching really highly. You know, if you want to move forwards, you can teach yourself online. You can do that. You can kind of read books, read online articles. You can look on YouTube and teach yourself how to do it and what to do and where to start. But I think if you really want to kind of fast track your progress, seeking a coach is probably going to be the thing that will move you forwards the quickest in terms of getting results the quickest. And I know that through experience. It's not just me trying to sell coaching. I value coaching because I've invested in many coaches in my life, in my career. And I just value coaches so much. I'm constantly investing in coaches and mentors, you know, to learn so I can help, you know, support more people as well as developing myself. You know, I'm passing that knowledge on to you guys. So, you know, if you invest in a coach that's been there and they've had coaches, and they've learned a lot over the years, you're going to learn so much more, you know, a lot quicker than actually trying to research yourself. So that's something that I would recommend in terms of looking at the actual specifics of training and how to put a program together. But yeah, the best learning experiences for me have been through hiring coaches. And I've hired some of the best coaches in the UK, certainly in weightlifting with Cyril. Learning from him has been absolutely phenomenal, and it's just a constant experience. Every single time that I see him, there's always something to learn from him. Little corrections, little tweaks, and it's sometimes it's really strange when you look at it when you have coaching. Sometimes you don't really feel the benefit. But when you look back at when you started before you saw a coach and then look at where you are now, you know, the actual progress when you look back at it is phenomenal. And that's something I would highly recommend. And I know now as well, there's online coaches out there. There's lots of choice for online coaching. So do your research, have a look, see what people are doing, see what the recommendations are. That's the best way to do it for me. Just have a look. Referrals are important. So I know for me as a coach, I've had plenty of people refer me on to others. But have a look at what have a look at your friends, see who they're referring. I've just started online coaching, and I've got the systems in place to be able to do it. We've been getting some good results. You can see on my Instagram. Have a look at the couple of posts that I put up about Danny and Joshua. You know, you can see visibly what we've achieved with those guys. So they've achieved that from online coaching, with their own hard work. But when I look at them, they're great examples coming back to how to get results. When you look at them, obviously they've had coaching, but they had the mindset first. You know, before they even came to see me, they were very much kind of, I'm going to get results here. I'm investing, and I'm going to do what it takes to get the results. Even if it means just making small changes and just being consistent week in, week out. So again, that comes back to that mindset. But yeah, many see hiring a coach as expensive, and I saw that. I remember when I first started as a personal trainer at David Lloyd, the first couple of years as I was just developing my business and trying to, earn money really. First couple year or so, I didn't really earn that much, and then you gradually build up, and I got to the point where I was earning enough where I could invest in quality coaches. But actually, looking back, if I could make a change, I would have invested in a coach earlier than that, and I would have done what it took to travel further to find good coaches to be able to do that. I would have done that as I first started as a PT. Even before that point, I would have done that, and I think that would have. It's expensive at that moment in time, but actually if I reflect back on that moment in time and if I would have done that earlier, I would have definitely been a lot better as a weightlifter. I would have learnt more about strength training a lot quicker. I would have developed a lot quicker, and I would have been a couple of years on, at this moment in time now if I'd have actually started a couple of years earlier. So that's something I would do rather than kind of putting it off. I know you hear quite a few people, when I worked at David Lloyd with the other PTs there as well, you hear quite a few members saying, oh yeah, I'm going to come for PT, but I'm going to get myself fit first. I don't want to be kind of in sessions, getting beasted, not be prepared for it. But my personal approach to coaching is, rather than just beasting someone and killing someone in the gym and setting a program that's, really intense straight away, it's actually a more gradual process, rather than... So I think there's still that kind of view, if you get a personal trainer, they're going to kill you, and you've got to be in good shape first. But I see it from the other side, rather than waiting longer and getting a coach. I would rather someone get a coach initially and then go off on their own after that, with that knowledge and experience under the belt, and then go and train, try training on their own after that, rather than doing it the other way around. So that way you're going to be set up in the right position. You're going to get results quicker rather than kind of waiting too long to do it. But yeah, you can learn from textbooks, but once you start seeing different coaches, seeing their approaches, if you invest in a good coach, it's going to be one of the best investments you can make. It gives you accountability as well, having someone to be accountable to. If you've not got someone coaching you and giving you a program, it's easy to kind of tweak it and change it yourself and not really move forwards. But if you've got someone saying that you need to be doing this, you need to be taking these actions this week, having that layer of accountability is just going to give you that push. Again, it comes back towards being able to achieve results. So yeah, we're getting there with this now. Training, yeah, in terms of what I do, I'll always advise, for most people starting off, strength training 3 times a week for beginners. Whole body training sessions, compound lifts, so those are lifts using the whole body, for example, squat variations, hip hinge or deadlift variations, upper body pressing, upper body pulling, some core exercises, maybe some conditioning work in there as well, for example, farmers walks, walking up and down with some dumbbells, sled pushes. We've got the sled at the gym, hopefully we'll be able to use that soon. That would be a good program typically, upper body pushing, upper body pulling, lower body exercises, quad dominant, hip dominant, so a squat, a hinge, a core exercise, and then maybe a conditioning exercise. That would be a good training program. But yeah, feel free again to ask more specific details. If you've got any specifics on where to start with the training program, feel free to drop a message through. Or, you know, if you wanted to chat, feel free. We can have a chat about it. But yeah, gradual progressive overload over time, rather than trying to be, you know, worrying about not being where you want to be and trying to go too heavy too soon and do too much too soon. This is very important actually at this moment in time right now as we start returning to exercise into the gym. If you've been sat not really doing that much for 3 months, and then you go back to the gym, you can guarantee, I can see what it's going to be like in the commercial gyms now. You know, I spent nearly 10 years in David Lloyd, and you see it all. You can guarantee a lot of people are going to be going back to the gym and just trying to pick up where they left off, hitting it hard, in that mentality of, oh, I'll let myself go now, I need to kill myself in the gym. And they're just going to get injured. Either they're going to injure themselves from going too hard too soon, doing too much too soon, or they're going to burn out and be kind of, it's difficult, you know, if you hitting it too hard too soon, you're going to struggle to recover, and it's easy to get disillusioned, and if you're feeling like you're not recovering, kind of, you know, it's easy just to take that next session off and rest and recover. I would rather go nice and light and gentle on the first session back, have a rest day, come back, feel fresh for the next session, gradually increase the intensity. Again, come back after that session, have the rest day. You know, you might feel a little bit sore, but, you know, recover relatively quickly. And then again, the next session after that, you might be able to push the intensity a little bit more or do a little bit more compared to the previous session. And it's just a very gradual increase over time. You're better off building that base first, you know, nice and light and easy, even just bodyweight exercises. I mean, if you're not doing anything at all now, just going for a walk, doing a few core exercises and stretches at home just to kind of prepare yourself for going back to the gym. Plenty of low intensity activity. You might have heard of NEAT. So that is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And again, I said I'm not going to go into the jargon of it, but basically what that means is just the day-to-day activity, me moving my hand about like this, putting the drink bottle to my mouth. This is movement that requires energy, and it's very small, but over the course of a day, the whole time that you're awake, you're moving around and it's burning energy. So if you're sat on the sofa all day, you're probably not going to be doing much in the way of NEAT. But if you're doing housework, if you're tidying around the house, moving around, going for walks around, doing some gardening, for example, it's activity that you're doing that's not planned as specific training. This can actually add up over the course of a day, and again, it could add up to the point where it puts you into a calorie deficit. So that is something that will really add up over time, and something that I would encourage most people to start with. You know, if you've not done any exercise at all, try and increase that. It could be as simple as just doing some cleaning or a little bit of DIY around the house, anything really. But it's not something that's going to be planned. So for example, if you say, I'm going to go out for a walk, and that's specifically designed to burn calories to go out for a walk, that isn't NEAT. That is actually scheduled physical activity, even if it's low intensity. So, but just fidgeting around and moving around. If you sat at a desk, I always, you know, I'm sat on a chair, for example, during the day, and I've been sat down for 48 minutes now. But for example, you know, if I'm in sessions online, I'll stand up, I'll move the chair out the way, I'll just go into like a half kneeling position. That's NEAT, and that adds up. You know, the more you're doing this, the more you're fidgeting, the better. It's crazy really, because when you're at school, I remember teachers, you know, telling me as well, you know, stop fidgeting, keep still. Actually, is that a good thing? It's promoting inactivity in some ways. Maybe teachers should, you know, as long as kids aren't disrupting the class, maybe they should encourage kids to move more. That could be something, you know, from that age. But yeah, fidgeting, moving around, just doing daily movement around the house, gardening, DIY, cleaning, moving stuff around, just moving around, standing up, sitting down, kneeling down, sitting down. all these little things actually surprisingly add up, and they can add up to quite a lot of calories. So that's something I would recommend to try and introduce more of those things into your life if you don't do them already. Let's have a look. Yeah, intensity should be relatively low. So when you're starting out in the gym, if you're going back to the gym, whether it's in 2 weeks, start really low. And I guarantee so many people are going to be killing themselves on treadmills and doing all sorts of stuff, and it's just not going to be sustainable. It's got to be sustainable and progressive over time, gradually. Strength training, I will always advise strength training, even if it's just starting with simple bodyweight exercises like split squats, press-ups from kneeling, bodyweight rows, things like this, resistance band exercises. It's something, there's benefits of strength training that you will get, that you will not get from any level of cardio, any cardio at all. Most importantly, bone density, and this is something that is reduced with age. Even after, I think it's the age of 30, this is something that reduces. I think muscle mass certainly deteriorates as well, so that deteriorates. I'm not going to go into the scientific detail too much, but muscle mass, bone density, metabolism, all these things, they all decline with age. So strength training will be something that will kind of halt that to a degree. You can build muscle tissue, you can build bone density. So by doing strength training, that is something that will help you in the long term. And certainly in terms of boosting your metabolism, if you are able to build muscle mass requires energy, and you're going to require more calories. So, someone with more muscle mass than you, similar size to you, but, you might have more body fat. They might be the same body weight as you, they might be the same height as you, but if they've got more muscle mass and you've got more body fat compared to that person, the person with more muscle mass is going to find it easier to burn calories and stay lean and stay in shape and stay strong. Again, that's a whole other avenue that I could probably go down, but I'm going to keep it relatively simple. Nutrition has to be sustainable, looking at the basics of nutrition again. So yeah, the most important thing, it has to be sustainable, rather than trying to go on a crash diet or do some crazy diet, and you see so much of it on social media now. The key thing is it has to be sustainable for you, for the individual. So it has to be something you can stick to consistently within, the key principles of good nutrition. So like I touched upon, getting plenty of protein for the majority of people, unless you've got a disease that, your doctor says you can't have too much protein. For the vast majority of people, most people, I would say, need more protein when you look at it, especially if you're older as well. The older you get, the harder it is for the body to utilize protein. So you actually need more protein than someone who's a lot younger than you. So yeah, plenty of protein, plenty of veg, lots of fiber, whole grains, beans, healthy fats as well, things like avocado, extra virgin olive oil. Bear in mind, these can be quite calorie dense, so if your goal is weight loss, then be careful of using those too much. But those are the key principles. I think, again, people really, already know what they need to do with this. So key principles, but it has to be foods that you can stick to as well. You've got to be able to stick to it, and that's the most important thing. If it's a drastic change, then it's going to be quite unsustainable in the long term. Again, it comes back to those incremental changes. If you can introduce, for example, on week 1 with a client who's, is going from kind of eating, highly processed foods, not really eating much fruit and veg, you could just introduce 1 piece of fruit per day to start with, and be consistent every single day, 1 piece of fruit. And then you could introduce like a protein shake as well for someone, just to get the protein levels up. Something as simple as that, but being consistent, keeping everything else the same to start, and then you can gradually start to chip away at it and start to make these positive changes and make them into habits that are going to move you forwards to the long term. So all that's left to do now, actually, before I finish this, lifestyle factors. Again, these are avenues that I could, you could spend hours on each of these. I know we're approaching an hour now. Stress management is massive as well. This is something that I say to a lot of my clients as well, because a lot of my clients are in stressful jobs. You know, they're very busy professional people with high levels of stress, but stress can play havoc on, you know, if your goal is weight loss, if you're highly stressed, it's going to make it harder. Again, I don't want to go into the scientific detail. It's for another Instagram live, but for another Instagram live. It's supposed to be live today. But yeah, stress management is key. It affects things like sleep, recovery. It affects your nutrition, how well you can absorb nutrients. And it's going to ultimately make it harder for you to lose weight if losing weight is your goal. So yeah, stress management, sleep, good digestion, plenty of fibre, plenty of water. Again, fruit, veg, lots of protein. Those are the key things. Again, it's the basics. You've probably heard a lot of this already, but you know, it's not overly complicated. The principles aren't too complicated, but applying it is. So it's that, it comes back to that mindset again. And executing. So all you've got to do now is go and execute and pick 1 or 2 tasks that you know are going to move you forwards to where you want to be. Go and do it before actually trying to wait to be motivated. It comes back to that again. It's crazy because you can be very knowledgeable. You can study training, nutrition, lifestyle factors. You can be really knowledgeable on all these areas, but actually going and executing and doing the tasks that you need to do, that is the hardest part, you know, of actually doing it. You've got to do it, and you've got to take action. You've got to develop these positive habits. But yeah, a small action again can have a knock-on effect. So just a small change, you know, 1 or 2 small little changes, if you're consistent over time, it can have a positive effect. Don't get discouraged if you're not achieving results quickly. It's a process, coming back to that again. It's a long-term process. It takes time. Embrace the challenges when you start to struggle, when you feel like you're low in motivation. Actually pushing through, that's one of the most satisfying things for me, you know, when I'm having a bad day or a bad training session. Actually pushing through the session and pushing through the day and ticking off and looking for every little positive thing. That is a great sign, and that's one of the most satisfying things you can experience. Again, comes back to that growth mindset. But yeah, action first, and then motivation second, and then results will come ultimately as a result. But yeah, I hope coming up to an hour. I didn't know how long I would be going on for with this. A lot of things to cover, so hopefully I've kind of covered the majority of areas. I know there's detail, you can kind of go off on one on each of these different areas, but hopefully I've kind of covered a lot of the key points. And even if there's, you know, if there's one little thing in there that one person has learned from this, you know, it's been worth this hour of my time to put this up. So I hope you've learned something from this. Share it as well. Feel free to share it. If you've got friends or family that you know benefit from this information, feel free to tag them in this, to send the video across to them. Share the information. I have spaces for online coaching as well. So if you think it's something that would interest you, I've got the link in my bio. You can find out all the information in there about what online coaching is, how you can benefit from it. So if you want to get results and you're struggling, I advise you to check that link out. But also, if you're not sure about it and you want to chat, feel free to chat. You can have a no obligation chat with me. We can either do it on Zoom, Skype, we can just have a phone call, we can do it that way. Even if you just got a few questions you want to ask, anything you're not sure of from this video, things that you want to ask specifically about yourself that you're not sure of when it comes to training, nutrition, lifestyle, struggling to get results, you know, if there's anything that you are struggling with in particular, feel free to reach out. I'd love to help. So yeah, any questions, post them below, or if you want to reach out in the DMs as well or send me a private message, you can do it. So I hope this has been of value. We're coming up to an hour, and hopefully next time I'll be able to do this live so we can answer questions live. So fingers crossed, we'll be able to do that next time. Much appreciated for listening. I appreciate all of you. So I hope you have a good week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope you have a good week. Take care.